Hello. Today I want to share with you about some mighty women in the AOG beginning moments, that is the Assemblies of God. I enjoy reading and studying about women in the Bible and thinking how they were feeling at that precise moment in their lives. Like Esther, when she entered into the court, knowing it was either the last day of her earthly life or the salvation of her people. Our Deborah, as she stepped up in that chariot and she looked at Barak and she said, "Let's ride." These women I'm going to tell you about today must have had the same shaky moments similar to the women in the Bible. These women came from different backgrounds and ministries, but they all began their ministries in the early years of the 19th century. Their common denominator is the dynamic change in their lives that came after receiving the infilling of the Holy Spirit. I dare to bet that none of them woke up one morning and said, Today is the day I'm going to be a world changer." No, I believe they simply followed where Holy Spirit led. Unfortunately, there isn't time to go into depth about each woman, but I do hope that these highlights inspire you. Let's start off with Alice Reynolds Flowers. She heard the Pentecostal message from Azusa Street, and it greatly influenced her. Alice emphasized that the baptism in the Holy Spirit was the introduction to a Spirit-filled life, and she wrote, "This is what the baptism of the Holy Spirit should be, the opening of the door of a vital and continuous communion with God for effectual prayer, worship, and service to Him." Now, in 1913, she began writing and distributing weekly magazines. The Christian Evangel, the forerunner of the Pentecostal Evangel. She had a writing ministry that not only included books, but articles and poetry. She also had a pulpit ministry. She had revivals and spoke of family-related topics. But I believe that her greatest ministry was being a mother. 5 of her 6 children entered the ministry, becoming leaders in the Assemblies of God. Her other child died while training for the ministry. Alice Luch. She was a missionary to India and a church planting pioneer. And while in India, the word of the Pentecostal movement reached her. And in 1910, she sought out the baptism of the Spirit for herself. Alice moved to Texas in 1914. There she became acquainted with the pioneer Assembly of God missionaries that were already ministering to Mexican refugees. But because of the Mexican Revolution, Alice moved to Los Angeles, where she began evangelizing the Latino community. Alice's personal ministry was varied, but dynamic. Her public ministry included open-air evangelistic meetings, Bible studies, and Sunday school teaching. She led door-to-door tract distribution and prayed for the sick. Ultimately, she was instrumental in establishing the Latin American Bible Institute of San Diego. Lillian Thrasher. Now, I found Lillian to be the most interesting and strongest of the women I've read about. Her story is amazing. First, Lillian had planned to go into journalism, and we already see her strength here because journalism was a male-dominated field. Second, she broke her engagement, which was against social norms, because she met Maddie Perry, a Pentecostal woman who ran an orphanage, and it changed her life and thousands of others. Lillian ended up in Egypt as a missionary, and through another encounter brought forth her calling. She responded to a call to pray for a dying woman who had a baby. Lillian took the baby back to the mission, but it was incompatible with the mission's operation. But this woman who gave up a career and a husband, I believe like Joshua and Caleb, she didn't falter at the bad report. She knew that God sent her, and she was going to accomplish it. She rented a house, and an orphanage began, because people started bringing their babies and their children to her. This amazing woman rode a donkey through villages collecting money for the children. By doing this, she earned the title Lady on the Donkey. When she started by renting a house to take care of a baby, ended up 50 years later with over 600 children in 13 buildings on 12 acres of land. Now I wish I had the time to tell you more, like how a group of women made clothing for 300 of Lillian's orphans. And this group was the first women's missionary council, which became a national organization providing items for missionaries. How Lillian inspired Gladys Henson, who was a remarkable story also. But all three of these and many more women should be our inspiration. Sure, they must have had those shaky moments, doubting themselves even, but they all relied on Holy Spirit, the same Spirit that indwells us. And when we have our chance encounter or odd meeting with somebody, we need to quiet ourselves and listen to Holy Spirit. Is this the time the voice is leading us to what God has called us to? Is this the lamp to our feet, letting us see the next step? Shh, quiet yourself and listen.